Good day, everyone! I am Ronalyn the Atienza from BS Ed 3. In today's video, I am going to analyze one of a short story from Arabian literature which entitled 1001 Nights. The 1001 Nights, Elf Layla wa Layla, or the Arabian Nights, as it's commonly called in English, is a collection of stories of uncertain date and authorship that is very well known to readers worldwide. While the sources of many of the stories are unknown, most are considered to have Middle Eastern or Indian origin. The stories are set within the frame story, with many stories embedded within. The tales influenced and continue to inspire many well-known literary figures. As Louis Borges commented, to erect the palace of the 1001 Nights, it took generations of men, and those men are our benefactors. As we have inherited this inexhaustible book, this book capable of so much metamorphosis. Here are the characters in the frame story. Scheherazade or Shahrazad is the legendary Persian queen who is the storyteller and narrator of the Nights. She is the daughter of the kingdom viziers and the older sister of Danyazad. Against her father's wishes, she marries King Shahryar, who has vowed that he will execute a new bride every morning. For 1001 nights, Scheherazade tells her husband a story, stopping at dawn with a cliffhanger. This forces the king to keep her alive for another day, so that she could resume the tale at night. The second characters in the frame story is Danyazad. Danyazad is the younger sister of Queen Scheherazade. In the story cycle, it is she who, at Scheherazade's instruction, initiates the tactic of cliffhanger storytelling to prevent her sister executions by Shahryar. Danyazad brought to her sister's bedchamber so that she could say farewell before Scheherazade's execution the next morning. Asked her sister to tell one last story. At the successful conclusion of the tales, Danyazad marries Shah Zaman, Shahryar's younger brother. Scheherazade's father is the vizier of King Shahryar. Every day, on the king's order, he beheads the brides of Shahryar. He does this for many years until all the unmarried women in the kingdom have either been killed or run away. At which point his own daughter Scheherazade offers to marry the king. Here are the other characters in the frame story. Shahryar is the fictional Persian Sassanid king of kings, who is told stories by his wife, Scheherazade. He ruled over a Persian empire extended to India, over all the adjacent island, and a great way beyond the Ganges as far as China. While Shahryar's younger brother, Shah Zaman, ruled over Samarkand. In the frame story, Shahryar is betrayed by his wife, which makes him believe that all women will, in the end, betray him. So every night for 3 years, he takes a wife and has her executed the next morning, until he marries Scheherazade, his vizier's beautiful and clever daughter. For 1001 nights in a row, Scheherazade tells Shahryar's story, each time stopping at dawn with a cliffhanger, thus forcing him to keep her alive for another day so that she can complete the tale the next night. After 1001 stories, Scheherazade tells Shahryar that she has no more stories for him. Fortunately, during the telling of the stories, Shahryar has grown into a wise ruler and rekindles his trust in women. Jazaman or Jazenan, brother of Shahryar. Jazaman catches his first wife in bed with a cook and cuts them both in two. Then, while staying with his brother, he discovers that Shahryar's wife is unfaithful. At this point, Shahzaman comes to believe that all women are untrustworthy, and he returns to Samarkand, whereas his brother does. He marries a new bride every day and has her executed before morning. At the end of the story, Shahryar calls for his brother and tells him of Scheherazade's fascinating moral tales. Shahzaman decides to stay with his brother and marries Scheherazade's beautiful younger maiden sister, Daniyazad, with whom he has fallen in love. He is the ruler of Tatarstan from its capital, Samarkand. A character analysis is a critical evaluation of the traits of a character, their role in the story, conflicts experiences, and their relationships in the story. Protagonist versus the antagonist. A protagonist is the main character and experiences the conflict in the story. The antagonist is the opposing character or force in the story. Shahryar, the protagonist. Shahrazad, the antagonist. Character analysis of King Shahryar. A round character is one who is the main character of the story, who encounters conflict and is changed by it. Traits. Initially, King Shahryar was a good king who was a daring, energetic, a powerful champion, and his country was loyal to him. Role. King Shahryar is the main character who became a tyrant after his wife's extramarital affair. Conflicts experienced. King Shahryar is emotionally devastated after witnessing his wife's unfaithfulness to him. He goes to visit his brother, King Shahzaman, whose wife is also discovered to be having an affair. Relationships. King Shahryar decided to never get his heart broken again because women were not trustworthy. He ordered his vizier to find him a wife. He slept with her one night and then ordered the vizier to put her to death. This became King Shahryar's custom to do every night, which caused great anguish in the kingdom with the death of so many young girls. Character analysis of Shahrazad. A flat character is one that can be described in one sentence and has no depth. Traits. Was the oldest daughter of the king vizier. She was an intelligent young woman who had read books of literature. Role. She devised a plan to save the young woman in the kingdom from King Shahryar's wrath, with stories of intrigue, but with a life less. Conflicts experienced. The conflict begins with getting her father, the vizier, to allow her to marry the king, which meant certain death for her. The conflict then evolves into the narratives of the 90s storytelling by her sister, by ending up each story with cliffhanger. Relationships. Each night's story was meant to entertain the king, but also to teach a life lesson. The king would eventually fall in love with her. The setting for Arabian Nights, sometimes called 1001 Arabian Nights, is in the Middle East. Specifically, it takes place in the tents of the Sultan. The Sultan has had bad luck with wives, believing them all to be deceitful. His newest wife knows what her fate will be after their wedding night, and so she tells him tales to distract him and keep him interested in keeping her alive. Therefore, the stories are told from the Sultan's tent. It is set in and around the Middle Eastern areas. Plot summary. The primary story is about Shahryar and Shahrazad. When Shahryar discovers that his queen at the beginning of the tale is being unfaithful, he declares that all women are the same and vows to take a new bride each night and have her killed the next morning. The people shocked by the brutality of this law and watches in horror as their king murders their daughters. Shahrazad, daughter of the vizier, convinces her father to offer her to Shahryar. She asked her sister Dinazad to wake her before sunrise and ask for a story. Dinazad wakes her as commanded, and with the king's permission, Shahrazad begins to tell her a story. But she halts her story at the suspenseful moments and tells Dinazad that she will finish the tale the following night, if the king permits her to live so long. Shahryar wishes to hear the rest of the story, so he agrees. This continues for 1001 nights, although it has actually been counted to be 280 nights. Shahrazad tells stories about romances, tragedies, and epic adventures. Often, one of her characters will tell his own story, creating an embedded narrative. Eventually, Shahryar falls in love with her and renounces his law. The rising action of the story. It is when King Shahryar experiences the heartbreak of his wife's affair, which leads him to believe all women are untrustworthy. He becomes a tyrant and kills many young women who he has married for only one night. The falling action of this story. It is when King Shahryar meets Shahrazad and becomes his wife. Shahrazad has a plan to change King Shahryar's heart through her nightly stories of intrigue, adventure, and a life lesson. Eventually, King Shahryar falls in love with Shahrazad and the murder stops. The climax of the story. After finding out that his first wife is unfaithful, Shahryar kills her and swears to marry a different woman each night before killing her the following morning to prevent further betrayal. Scheherazade, his vizier's daughter, concocts a plan to end this pattern. She marries Shahryar and then begins to tell him a story that night. However, she stops the story in the middle, so that he will be excited to hear the rest the following night. The next evening, she finishes the story and then begins another, following the same pattern for 1001 nights, until Shahrayar has a change of heart. The stories she tells comprise the collection. A creative and original collection of stories. The Arabian Nights and the different tales and stories within it contain various innovative and inventive literary techniques that are fresh and distinct from Western form of literary writing. Traces of Persian, Indian, and Arabic culture, folklore, and literature can be found in the collection, but others are exquisitely original. The creativity of the collection primarily lies on the frame story, which was artistically utilized in order to strongly present the following stories that are necessary in the building of the entire collection. The theme of the story: sexual desire and eroticism. Eroticism and sexuality are a major theme and motif within the Arabian Nights. In the frame story, King Shahrayar struggles with accepting his wife's sexual desires that lead to her unfaithfulness when he is away during war. The same is the case with his brother. The telling of the tales at night in the sleeping chamber add to the theme of sexuality and eroticism that is prevalent in many of the tales. The couple are in an intimate space where the reader is allowed to enter. The king spends a night with every woman before he kills her, his rage and wrath being channeled into sexual desire and lustfulness. The role of women in the story. The role of women is presented in a very subtle and nuanced way throughout the collection. On the one hand, there are many strong and intelligent female characters. On the other hand, however, women are also depicted as oppressed, socially unequal, and unfaithful or immoral. The frame tale, for instance, initially presents women as being untrustworthy and unfaithful, which justifies King Shahriyar's decision to murder every woman he takes as wife after the first night of the marriage. However, in the same frame tale, Shahrazad is presented as the center of beauty, faithfulness, and intelligence. In the conclusion of the frame tale, King Shahryar recognized Shahrazad's eloquence, wisdom, purity, piety and sweetness, honesty and discretion. The countless women that die at the hands of Shahryar are helpless and lack the agency to control or alter their own fate. At the same time, Shahrazad is able to outsmart the king and change his wrath and bitterness into love and understanding. Moral lesson. One of the most important moral concepts in the Arabian Nights is that of fidelity. From the very beginning of the work, fidelity is the driving force that binds the brothers together and that provides the backdrop for the telling of the tales. Fidelity of all kinds is explored in the Arabian Nights, that between a husband and wife, between brothers, and between a lord and his servant. Morals and ethics are among the most important subjects dealt with throughout the Arabian Nights. Describe the moral system as it is depicted throughout the course of the book, giving examples of important moral concepts in specific tales. The story illustrated that even when women did not hold positions of power, they were still capable of destroying or saving a kingdom. This power is shown by the king's first wife, the demon's wife, and Shahrazad, the priest's daughter. The power to destroy was shown by King Shahryar's first wife, even though she may have not known that her actions may lead to the destruction of a kingdom, it ironically ends up that way.
Conclusion. The Arabian Nights, 1001 Nights, is a treasure of world literature because of many factors. These factors lie in the uniqueness and creativity of the collection of various stories with various characters, with various themes, and most importantly, with various morals that are embedded on a single frame story. In the end, one can simply conclude that the diversity of the style and the structure of the Arabian Nights are its unifying factor towards greatness as a piece of literature. That's all. Thank you for watching and have a great day.